Dwervelwind at Toverland is the most underrated coaster in the Netherlands, and it is not even close. There's one simple reason for this, so hear me out. Whenever you talk about roller coasters in the Netherlands, you will most likely hear the bigger names from either the Efteling or Walibi. Think of names like Python, Baron 1898, Untamed, or hell, even Condor. They don't even have to be good, but they're more or less household names. And whenever you think about roller coasters in Toverland, the first ones that would come to mind are the unique Vekoma booster bikes and Troy, a GCI Woody. Enthusiasts would also think of the more recent B&M wing coaster Fenix. But Dwervelwind is pretty much forgotten about. So, what is Dwervelwind? Dwervelwind is a max spinning coaster which opened in 2012, along with the new themed area, the Magische Vallei, or the Magical Valley in English. The name Dwervelwind is a spin on the Dutch word Wervelwind, which means whirlwind, and on dwervels, which are the creatures inhabiting the valley. It is the only coaster of the Magical Valley, though you could debate this. The booster bike is also located around this area, but it's not truly part of the Magical Valley. Or is it? This is a topic for a whole different video. Dwervelwind does not have a unique layout, because it is a clone of Le Twist at Le Pole in France, which opened up in 2011. So these are the only two max spinning coasters with this particular layout, as the other clones are based on Sierra Sidewinder or Turbulence. So you would have to travel to Europe if you want to experience this particular layout. Dwervelwind is just 20 meters high, or 65 feet, and reaches a top speed of 70 km per hour, or 43 miles per hour. And it isn't particularly long, with a length of 462 meters, or 1515 feet. So while the stats aren't that special, it does make for a good family coaster, as children with a height of 1 meter or 3.3 feet are allowed on this ride, albeit under guidance. This feels exceptionally low for a coaster like this. The coaster doesn't pull too many strong forces by itself, though you can get a nice sense of weightlessness in the horseshoe turn. But Dwervelwind keeps its speed well throughout the layout and the elements. The turns and S-bends really try to get the car spinning. Dwervelwind runs with two trains when the park is expecting heavier crowds, like during summer, so most of the time you don't have to wait long to get a ride in. During most of my visits, this was pretty much a walk-on. And to add as a little fun fact, the maintenance bay of Dwervelwind is actually underneath the station. If they want to add or remove the second train, the ride operators can raise up the track in the station, which lifts up the track of the maintenance bay. This seems to be a pretty unique experience, and I haven't actually seen it happen yet myself. So now you know a bit more about Dwervelwind. But what actually makes this coaster stand out so much? Well, for starters, it has onboard audio and a custom IMAscore soundtrack. This soundtrack really enhances the experience of Dwervelwind, but it may not always work. It may depend on the train you're riding and the state it's in. While I've had it work more often than not, during my latest trip on the 18th of January, it sadly did not work. If it does, however, it's a real joy. The soundtrack builds up the anticipation while you're climbing the lift hill, and it's timed well with the drop, enchanting you throughout the ride as you spin through the elements. Next is the setting and theming of Dwervelwind. The landscaping really plays into the theme of the Magical Valley. It is a beautiful and vibrant green area. Unless you're there during the winter, which kinda makes sense. Since the track color is green as well, it really blends into the rest of the environment. Once you walk into the station building, you are greeted with a roof filled with magical plants that light up as the train enters the station. If there is only a single train on the track, the lights slowly dance around in anticipation, which is a beautiful sight, especially at night. But this is not the reason why I rate Dwervelwind so highly, even though it does contribute. No, there's one single reason why Dwervelwind is so much better than it should be. And it is this particular blue car. I have mostly encountered it as the second car of what I believe to be the second train, but I guess the trains could be put on backwards. Dwervelwind has free spinning cars and a decent spin on its own, but this car pushes it up a notch. This may be confirmation bias, but every time I have experienced Dwervelwind in this particular car, the spinning was completely out of control, and it made this relatively mild coaster much more intense. I am not an engineer, and I don't know how these cars work specifically. But if it has a magnetic control, like the extreme spinners have, this particular car may have it set pretty loosely. Or it may be influenced by the weather, since I've mostly visited Toverland during peak summer, with temperatures of 30 to 40 degrees Celsius, or 86 to 104 degrees Fahrenheit. Like when you would normally ride a roller coaster and it warms up during the day, maybe that same lubricant is properly warmed up during those days, causing a more intense spin. And it can get even better if you manage to get an off-balance ride in this car. I've had rides where I got off dizzy simply because of the crazy spinning we've experienced in this particular car. And friends in other cars were amazed seeing how much this car spun. I am not sure if it's by design, or whether Toverland will change this up in the future. But if you want to experience an out-of-control ride, don't miss out on Dwervelwind. Specifically, this blue car. And even if it's just running one train, and it's not the correct train, Dwervelwind is still an excellent coaster to experience during your visit to Toverland. So as you may have gathered, I like spinning, but you know what I don't like? This video right here. I don't like this. No,